there's a lot going on in this photo and behind this photo, like behind the creation of this photo. So settle in. This is going to be a bit of a longer audio recording here. What you're looking at is a photo from a high school senior photo session. Along with my normal 9-to-5 job that I work at Oklahoma State University, I also take photos on the side, like portraits, high school seniors and kids and families, stuff like that. My wife and I do this on the side just for fun. Like we do maybe a couple sessions a year, and just for people here in town, just for a fun little side project. And we don't do it to generate a ton of income, like almost nothing, but it's just for fun. So this is one of those senior photo sessions, and I never put these photos online, like publicly viewable, because it's not about me. Like, people pay me to get these photos, so I shouldn't be just posting them randomly on my blog or on social media and stuff like that. But this one I wanted to, because there's nothing personally identifiable. Like, there's nothing that shows this as a senior photo, a high school senior photo. And I really like how this turned out. Like, I'm so pleased with how this turned out. But it's not just a photo of someone playing guitar. There's years of experience in this photo right here. It's not just this one photo by itself. To get this photo, there are so many things that came into play. There's the lighting. There's the overall, my vision for this composition, where I knew that I wanted to have this shot of like looking down the neck of the guitar. There's knowledge of the guitar, which I play guitar. So when this high school senior showed up with his guitar for the session and asked if he could take some shots with his guitar, I said, sure, because I play guitar. So I know the kinds of things that someone who plays guitar might be looking for. There's exposure, like aperture, to get depth of field, but also get a high shutter speed, which also there's shutter speed. There's there's ISO. There's also building a relationship with the client. There's also knowing how to operate my gear, knowing where to focus, knowing what mode to shoot in. Like, all of these things that I have built up over years of taking photos, and even the editing came down to what you see here. And I've taken so many macro shots over the past year that I felt like many of those shots ended up preparing me for this shot here, which, not literally, like I wasn't spending the past 2 months practicing photos of flowers and stuff so I could take a guitar picture. But when this opportunity presented itself, I was ready, armed with the knowledge that I needed, having taken so many macro photos. So what did I do to get this shot? Well, I was taking photos of this young man, and we were downtown, which, again, like location scouting. I had scouted out a spot to take photos a couple days before doing this shot. And I already know spots around town to take photos, but he requested some specific things. So I went down and I looked at the time of day and the location and what he was looking for in order to get the right location for these photos. And he pulled out his guitar and he said, and I gave him some directions. I said, why don't you sit here and kind of face this direction? And I had my D500, not my D750, because I wanted to fire off a ton of shots in rapid succession. There was enough light that I could still use. I wasn't too worried about going at too high of an ISO. The D500 looks great up to ISO maybe 3200. We're starting to get a little bit of annoying grain, and 6400, like it'll work, but you have to finesse it in Lightroom a bit. So I needed a clean ISO shot, but I also needed the right aperture for this type of shot. So I shot this at f4.8, and this is too close for a normal lens. Like, you couldn't get this shot with a 50 millimeter lens because they can't focus that close. I had to get pretty close to this guy's fingers in order to get this particular shot. So f4.8, 105 millimeters on that macro lens. I used auto ISO and set the minimum shutter speed to, I think, 250th of a second, which is fine for this. He wasn't moving his hand super fast. I ended up with a 400th of a second shutter speed and ISO 560. So I could have gone a little slower on the shutter and a little lower on the ISO, but it's fine. Like, there's no fixing that need to happen here. I took several dozen shots, and this was my favorite. I am so pleased with how this turned out. You got the headstock in the foreground, and then his fingers sharp and in focus. And he's even playing, looks like he's playing a C chord there, or a variation of a C chord. Maybe he has just lifted up his ring finger after playing a C chord. And also his hand in the background, finger picking the fingers, or finger picking the strings. All of this came together just like I planned. And it was so cool to take this in the moment and hope it worked out, and then get back to my computer and check in the back of the camera too. But you never know for sure until you see it on a big screen on your computer. And I was so pleased with this shot. As I'm recording this, the client has not yet seen this photo. So they're going to see this long before anyone on Weekly 50 does. And I'm confident they're going to love this photo. I sure do. I know I would like this photo if I were a senior in high school. So it was fun to take this and to be able to put all this knowledge and experience that I've built up over the years to use for such a photo.